Welcome to Experts Explain Trauma. Today we've got Dr. Jessica joining us to answer questions that we have about binge eating and emotional eating. She's also going to give us some golden nuggets on how to work through binge eating and emotional eating. Okay, Dr. Jessica, this is a really great question. And actually, I've had a few people say this to me, that they struggle with this. I didn't, but I think, and when we were talking before the recording started, this is actually a common question, which is interesting. So the question is, could my struggles with weight actually be a way my body is trying to protect me?
Yes, and as you were saying, it is a common thing for people to struggle with if they have a history of trauma, as well as them binge eating. And so the short answer to this is yes. So the short answer is yes. Could your struggles with weight actually be a way your body's trying to protect you? Yes. The long answer is like there's multiple layers packed in there. And I mean, anytime we talk about binge eating, there's multiple layers packed in there.
Sure. Trauma too, yeah.
Trauma too, exactly. It's complicated. So I'm going to do my best to kind of break down a little bit of the science. Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Kind of behind the yes answer, because the weight can serve as a form of protection, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically to some extent. Most people don't realize it though. So it's operating at like a subconscious kind of level. And so from like a nervous system perspective, right, our bodies are always trying to keep us safe as much as possible. And so if somebody has went through trauma, and that could be like one big trauma, or it can be what's more common are those multiple quote unquote smaller traumas that just build up over time, especially throughout childhood. So like continued experiences of rejection or being shamed as a child or a young adult. So if someone goes through that over time, the body will adapt in a way that can seem very confusing or even frustrating on the surface. And oftentimes that's weight gain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, but the body is actually super smart though. At an intellectual level, it is adapting in the way that we would want it to. And so think about it like this. So weight often becomes a buffer for a woman when she doesn't feel safe in this world. Okay. It creates both literal space between her and the world and the people in it, and it creates symbolic space at the same time. And so for women, especially my clients who have been through any sort of boundary violation, especially sexual abuse and sexual, right, or childhood neglect even, holding on to extra weight can kind of unconsciously feel like the way that she can protect herself. So holding on to extra weight makes me less desirable to the population, to the general public, makes me less visible, less vulnerable. I'm less likely to attract attention. Therefore, I'm less likely to get hurt again. Right? And so that is one of probably the biggest layers, is like the extra layer of weight keeps me safe.
I actually had a friend that said that's exactly why she thought she put weight on, was to protect her from being, she was sexually abused, and to protect her from more of that and being attractive to men or women.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that's one of the most common things I hear, from my clients when we start bringing this up as well. It's like on some level, it's like, I know that, being seen in a bigger body makes me feel less attractive to other people. I also want to say though, that's not necessarily true. And that people are attracted to people of all shapes and sizes. And so being in a bigger body does not make you unattractive to everybody. So not also
Good
necessarily
point.
Right. And so as we all know, people in all shapes and sizes go on to fall in love and get married and partner up and so forth. So, there is another side of that, like kind of like the trauma side, when we talk about like the biochemical pieces behind the weight gain, right? So not to dull everybody, but with some of the science, right? But like when we're in that state of stress with trauma, those fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses come out, right? So when we're trauma triggered. And so over time, if we don't have a way to regulate those trauma triggers, food becomes the way for some of us, right? The people listening to this is probably should sound familiar, right? If you're listening to this.
Sounds familiar to me.
Right? So the brain's going to look for ways to regulate those trauma triggers. And food is really honestly one of the most accessible, easy ways for most of us to regulate. right? And so it does temporarily calm your nervous system. Scientifically, it does. It goes in and it calms
Mm.
your nervous system, especially foods that are higher in fat or sugar. There's science behind it. And
Oh.
so when you are going through a trauma trigger and you do turn to foods like that frequently because there's no other way to regulate yourself, then of course, you may gain weight. That could potentially be the outcome. And so there's a reason why, the weight will come on in that direction. Cortisol also with trauma triggers, cortisol goes up, right? So those high adrenaline, high levels of cortisol leads to increased cravings. And it can also dull your fullness signals,
Oh.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
even if you're constantly in this state of flight, or freeze or fawn, and we can't regulate, not only are we reaching for something to regulate the nervous system, but your cortisol is consistently high, and it also then dulls your fullness, right? So you still feel hungry and you just keep eating, which is often why people find themselves in a binge and they're way past fullness, like way, way past fullness by the time it ends, if that makes
I,
sense.
it totally makes sense because that makes sense why I used to sit in the evening time and watch TV and eat right after I ate a full meal. I wasn't hungry, clearly. I just had a full meal and I would within an hour be sitting in front of the TV with chips or something to eat. And it makes complete sense that I was completely numbing myself and just shutting down.
Yeah. Yep. And you think about, like, I mean, if these are long-term patterns too,
Right.
right? So if you've been doing this 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I work with clients in their 70s and they've been doing
Mm-hmm.
this since they were 10, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it this long, then, weight gain is going to be a side effect of that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
But what I do want to, so hopefully that answers the question, right?
It
Yes.
totally answers the question. And I knew I was going to get educated in this question because, like I said before we got started, I didn't know quite what the answer was. I figured it was yes, but I didn't understand why it would be yes, and so now I do. So, what can survivors do to kind of work through this?
Well, I always feel like my first response to many of those, like, how do we cope with it, comes back to two words, and they're my two favorite C words, and it's curiosity and compassion.
Oh, yeah.
It's always what I come
Mm-hmm.
back to. And so first, like, because I think if the people are asking this question, they're clearly probably struggling with their weight and feeling poorly about it, right? And so one of the things that I would say to those individuals is I want you to know that, like, your extra weight is not a failure and it's not a flaw. It's a strategy your body has used to keep you safe, protected, and emotionally regulated when it had no other option. So we need to first be, like, compassionate and, compassionate about why your body has put on extra weight. And we also need to, be curious about, you know, what is your body trying to tell you? Okay. So, like, instead of seeing your body and the weight as a problem, think about it as like a messenger. It's trying to give you a message, right? It's trying to signal something, right? So it's a sign that something deeper needs worked on. It needs attention, right? And so maybe, people need to ask themselves, instead of how do I lose this weight? The better question, the more helpful question would be, what has my body carried me through? Right?
Mm.
What has my body carried me through? What has it been protecting me from? What emotions have I used, or what emotions have I used food to avoid? Right? And on a very deeper level, like, what part of me has never got to have needs that were met? Right? Because your body is trying to do all of those things for you. Okay. So when you make that shift, often weight does begin to change. But honestly, I never guarantee that. I never tell people like they're going to lose weight if they stop their binge eating, because I would never profess to be smarter than one's own body.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of different factors that go into body losing weight and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can attest to, like, if you start to work with your body and not against it, things only shift, for the better. So
No, they
hopefully
did for me.
yeah.
They did for me. Yeah. I mean, I still, there's still struggles I have, but I've come a long way. Like, you were mentioning too, if you've been doing these habits for a long time or this
Yeah.
particular it sticks with you. And that's true. And that was part of my problem. Yes, I was also emotionally shutting down, but it was also a habit.
Yeah.
I had done it. It was the coping mechanism I learned at 11 years old.
Yeah.
And it worked for me in the moment. And so it was just a habit I carried into my adult life for many, many years. I only broke that habit maybe 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was mentioning before too, is also getting a new relationship with food and not fearing food and not hating food and not loving, just like having a very balanced, I still struggle. It's not a clear sailing road right now, but it's come a long way. So I hope that I hope that gives the listeners hope.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that is like, that is so normal to continue to have ups and downs with healing your relationship with food. It will never be 100% perfect ever. And it shouldn't be, honestly.
No, and don't expect it. Don't even expect it.
Absolutely.
Give yourself a break on that, right? Because I know I used to be so hard. If I can't do it perfect, I can't do it at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So
Yep.
we have to change your definition of progress is what I often say to people, right? We need to change your definition of success and progress and
Yes.
so forth. So,
and failure too, right?
and failure. Oh, 100%. Yeah. If you're not failing, you must be pretty bored in life.
That is a great way to put it. That is a great way to put it.
If you're not failing in some sort of capacity, you're not putting yourself out there. You're not learning. You're not growing. Like we only get better in life through failing. That's just part of it. So.
That's how we learn. Exactly. So for the listeners, the best advice, and I love that, is to give yourself compassion and curiosity. Right. Yep. And so, right. And how I started, that is kind of how I started. Because I'm thinking back, how did I kind of break my habit of eating in the evening? And it was being curious, like, why am I eating food when I just had a full dinner and I'm not even hungry? That doesn't make any sense. And, and that's where it started with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's taking a little bit of a look at it, just a little bit. And so forth. It starts very small steps, very small steps. Those steps make a huge difference long term. So,
yeah. And listeners, just know that this is a response from your trauma, and it's not your identity, and it's not who you are. It's just a response, and you can be empowered to change it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter what happens with weight, I have seen incredible shifts internally. From my clients that I get the honor and pleasure of working with, I've seen some of them lose weight. I've seen some of their weight completely stay the same, but I've seen their insides completely change.
Right.
And so, and they wouldn't change that for the world, because suddenly their weight doesn't matter, and they're out there living these big, beautiful, colorful lives instead of small, tiny, fearful, stuck lives. If that makes sense.
Right. The whole goal is to be healthy and not to be just skinny. That's not the goal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jessica. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome.
If this resonates with you, or you've got a question for our experts, let us know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more insights on trauma healing.